printability. Uh, yeah, paper due to its high degree of printability is often uh, favored to print the labels. Like many things, like say for example metal or glass. These things are quite difficult to print. In other way, the print can be most comfortably and most conveniently can be done on papers. So that is why in many cases you will see, although you have a different packaging, say for example, uh, one sec, just I'm just putting on my camera once. Can you see me? This one? I think all of at your house you have uh, this hand sanitizer and all these things. You will see that this bottle is basically made of plastic, but on that you have this kind of a label on that, which is printed on paper. The major reason is like printing on plastic, glass, and any other kind of surfaces is not always very, you know, good. It is very convenient. So that is why in most of the cases you will see that we use the paper labels. Now paper labels are normally printed on sulfite stock, that means which is having a very good whiteness. However, and the GSM generally ranges in terms of 70 to 90 GSM. We'll call it label paper, and it is having the major reason of using sulfite stock is the whiteness. Sulfite stock gives a very good degree of whiteness, which gives a much convenient way to print, because if your surface is white in color, you can use just a single color of ink to print your entire thing. And it is having different kind of variants also. That means it is not that the label paper is only of one type. There are different types of label paper. Some which are very commonly used are, one is called MG. MG stands for machine gloss. This is called MG, machine gloss. We are also having another one that is called MF. Okay, this is called machine finished. Okay, but it is having machine finished thing. This has a high smoothness, but not gloss. It not always that something is very smooth means it will be having high gloss. In general, this machine finished type of label papers, they have a high smoothness, but not very glossy it is. Okay. So in many of the cases, you will see that due to the esteemness, we prefer the matte finish kind of appearance. So machine finished paper labels are smooth, but they are matte in terms of their appearance. Okay. We have another one that is called super calendar stock, SC. This super calendar is having high gloss on both sides. So these are few of the very commonly used type of label papers. MG is having machine gloss but only in one side. MF is having machine no such high gloss, but it is having a very high degree of smoothness. And super calendared or SC grade, like which is having high gloss on both sides. So depending on what is your application, you have to choose that what kind of label paper you want to do. For example, you are going to stick it on the material using some water based glue. So if it is some water based glue, then very smooth paper won't be very applicable, like, because it must have a kind of fibrous structure. so that glue can be absorbed by the water and then it can be stuck properly on the surface. So that is why in those cases we cannot use both side gloss or both side very smooth kind of level paper. One side, which is the printed side, that may be a very glossy one, but the other side may not be that much glossy or smooth, maybe a kind of roughness will be there. Okay. The next one is called a back paper. Okay. The next one is called a back paper. Okay, these back papers may be a coated or uncoated stock, and it is generally craft stock. You know the craft stock, what is that? A kind of brown kind of appearance is there. It is called craft stock. I'm just showing you one example. Nowadays, if you shop on any kind of e-governance site and all these things, you may get this. So this is an example of your craft stock. Yeah, this one. Okay, you might have seen this kind of packages that come when you buy something in online shops like Amazon, Mintra, and all this. So they give you this kind of stock. This is an example of the craft stock. Okay, now this craft stock are basically having a kind of roughness. You can see they are not very smooth and very glossy, but it is having a very good strength. That is why it is generally used for bag and sacks and this kind of applications. Okay, because they can carry a good amount of load compared to other kind of papers. Okay, so this is called a craft stock, and this craft stock is generally used as the back paper. Also sometimes we call it sack paper. Okay, because depending on the formation of the paper, we will know that whether it's a bag or whether it's a sack, but in general this is what is used for the back paper. Okay, and normally it is brown in the color. Craft paper, one way to understand is that it is normally having a brown appearance. Okay, so and the GSM, that can be that can vary from 90 to about 100 GSM, and as you can understand that GSM is quite high. That means it is a bit of heavy kind of paper which can carry a better amount of load. And craft paper is having one big advantage, that since it is generally not been calendared and no not very much processed, it is having a very good sealability. You know what is the meaning of sealability? Any idea? What is the meaning of sealability? Yeah, anything? Any idea? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please do response. Okay, otherwise I don't know whether you are there or not. In that case, we may go for a WhatsApp class. Means I can just record it and I can send it. Means if I'm taking a live class, if you are also attending, giving your precious time, so please do respond. Otherwise, it is difficult. Okay. So sealability is basically, like as from the name you can understand that sealing, that suppose anything if you make by paper. Okay, just I am showing you why paper is so much you know preferred. Say this is a paper packaging. Okay, this is a simple envelope. Now, as you can easily understand that how easily this can be made, these joints can be made by paper, it is very difficult to make with any other kind of paper. So this is a seal of the paper, okay, where this envelope has been used some glues and it has been closed. This end has been closed. So this is called the sealability. And all the kind of papers and all materials, they don't have the same degree of sealability. So craft paper is having a very high degree of sealability, which is quite advantageous in case of packaging. The next stock that we are going to talk is called impregnated stock. Okay, impregnated stock. Impregnated stock is something where the paper is impregnated with different kind of materials, normally wax. Majorly the impregnation is done using wax because wax is having very high water and moisture resistance. So many cases where the paper packaging is going to be used for anything which is liquid, which is like water and all. So in those cases, we normally prefer a paper stock which has been impregnated. Impregnated means it has been introduced into it. Okay, that paper fibers, in between the paper fibers, say if I just show you, suppose like in a very rough way, suppose this is how your paper is basically. Okay, you have the paper fibers in a microscopic view, you get like this. So in between these elements, you can use some kind of materials which is basically going to close these pores. Okay, this small pores going to get closed. Okay, so this is the thing which is called impregnated. Normally we can use something like wax. Okay, and in these cases, this impregnated cases, what will happen, that it will have a high degree of water grease resistance. Okay, so this is the use of impregnated paper. I'm just going to show you. Can you just guess an example where you see this impregnated paper very commonly? May not be a packaging example very well, but example of paper. Where have you seen impregnated paper? Wax coated paper maybe. No, 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 no. Photographic paper are not those actually. They are having a different thing altogether. Okay, that is not, because photographic paper is not at all a packaging example first of all, but otherwise also photographic paper is not an. It is a diluted kind of thing. It is a separate way. I think not a very good example. Anything else? Okay. Whenever you go to a tea shop, means in the roadside tea shop, the kind of cups that you get. Okay. So if you examine those cups very carefully inside, if you just touch, you will see that you have a waxy kind of feeling, right? It is a very smooth thing over there. So this is an example of the impregnated paper. And generally, it's not very much advised that you always drink hot kind of cups, because what happens, this wax inside it that get melted and that mix with the beverage that you are consuming, that can cause a lot of health problems also. Okay, but anyway, that is one example of impregnated paper which is wax coated. You can have other kinds of coating also. You can have some fluorocarbons also used over there. But the major reason of this impregnation is to reduce the water absorption by paper. Okay. So these all are the most commonly used papers. Now we are going to paper boards.
Yes, sir.
Paper boards. Now, as I already told, that commonly, although we may not uh, differentiate between paper and paper board in the general way, but these two are two different things, and as printing engineers and packaging engineers, we must know the difference between paper and paper boards. Normally paper boards, you can say that they are made from paper, but they are having a multi-layer structure. Okay, generally they are having 2 or 3 layers, and while you are clubbing these 2 or 3 layers, obviously you are going to increase the thickness, but at the same point of time you are also going to get better strength and better forming factor. You know what is called form factor? Any idea what is meant by form factor or formability?
No, sir.
Any guess from the name itself? I think you can guess a bit. Okay. If I give you an A4 sheet, okay, a normal A4 sheet, can you make a box out of it?
No, sir.
Why?
No, it is
Strength
2D,
का
sir.
कम.
Huh? 2D.
I will make a 3D box with a 2D paper, sir.
Sir, strength টা কম বলে.
তাহলে 2D 3D এর কোনো এখানে প্রশ্নই নেই, তোমার তো
The
2D, the,
size of
the
the A4
material
sheet.
is 2D, but one sec, just material is 2D, but you can fold it and you can make it 3D, can't you make?
Yes,
Why
sir.
this,
Yes.
yeah, why this 2D 3D thing is coming, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, Sharnomoy was telling something, tell me.
So does it have anything to do with the size of the A4 sheet? Like,
No, no, no,
I
no,
mean,
no, no. Size will finally matter, the size of the box. But my question is, can you form a box? Can you create a box, or can you make a box using a A4 paper, normal A4 paper?
No, sir.
The reason is that it is having a very low formability. You can wrap with a paper, you can create a thonga kind of thing, an envelope kind of thing, but something which is having a fixed shape. A box is generally having a fixed shape, right? And that shape need to be retained. Obviously, it cannot be retained for a very long time, but at least it should have a forming for some duration of time. So paper cannot do that, and that is why these paper boards are used. Paper boards, as I already told, they are having multiple layers. Okay, and there are different types of paper boards which are used. We will see few of the commonly used paper boards that are used. Okay, the first one is called SUB. Okay, this is called solid unbleached board. And as the name says, I think you can easily understand that this board, if I take this kind of view, this type of boards will have basically multiple layers of unbleached paper stock. Okay, unbleached means there are generally there are many types of paper stock, means the stock from which the paper is made. I think you are going to study in much detail in paper technology, but anyway, you can have a bleached stock and you can have a unbleached stock. You can also have something called chemical stock, mechanical stock, all these things. I'm not going into detail of that, but here, as the name says, this U stands for unbleached. And this SUB is basically it is a kind of, uh, it is cheap actually, okay, it is not very expensive, and it is having a strength as well, but not very high strength, okay, it is having a good amount of strength but not very high, and it is inexpensive, it is not very expensive boat stock. Okay, I can show you one example. Can you just guess where can you see this? Again, I'm giving a clue. This type of boats is again generally having a brown kind of appearance. Any guess where have you seen these cheap boats? All of you have seen it, I'm sure.
স্যার জামা কাপড়ের বাক্সে?
হ্যাঁ, জামা কাপড়ের বাক্সটা ঠিক নয়। দেখবে জামা কাপড় কেনার পরে ভেতরে দেখবে অনেক সময় জামাতে স্পেশালি একটা ব্রাউন রঙের একটা বোর্ড থাকে, যেটাতে দেখবে জামাটা ওই এইগুলো লাগানো থাকে, পিন টিন গুলো দিয়ে লাগানো থাকে। মানে জামাটাকে একটা জামার মতো করেই ফোল্ড করে যে করে, দেখবে মাঝখানে একটা ব্রাউন কালারের বোর্ড থাকে, খুব মোটা হয় না, কিন্তু মোটামুটি একটা মানে মাঝারি সাইজের থিকনেস হয়, ঠিক আছে? দেখেছো সবাই ওটা?
হ্যাঁ স্যার।
হ্যাঁ, এটা কিন্তু ওই তোমার ওই মানে মলে গিয়ে ঝোলানো যে জামা ওইগুলো কিনলে হবে না, মানে পাড়ার দোকান টোকানে যে বক্সে যে জামা পাওয়া যায় ওই জামাতে এগুলো দেখবে, বা আরো মিষ্টির দোকান, মিষ্টির দোকানের যে বাক্সটা দেয় দেখবে, খুব বড় দোকান নয়, মোটামুটি পাড়ার যে মাঝারি মাপের দোকানগুলো, সেই বক্সের যে the board which is used to make that box is an example of this solid unbleached board. I am just showing you an example. এই দেখো, এটা কিন্তু মিষ্টির প্যাকেট থেকেই ছেঁড়া হয়েছে, ঠিক আছে? দেখবে এই টাইপের যে এগুলো, সেগুলো কিন্তু এই রকম একটা ব্রাউনিশ ব্যাপার থাকে। অ্যান্ড অ্যানাদার গুড ওয়ে টু অবজার্ভ ইজ, ইফ ইউ জাস্ট টিয়ার দ্য বোর্ড আ বিট, দেখো এই জায়গাটা আমি টিয়ার করেছি, তোমরা দেখতে পাচ্ছ এর যে ওপরের জায়গাটা যেখানে প্রিন্ট আছে সেইটা কিন্তু খুব ইজিলি তুমি আলাদা করে দিতে পারবে, ঠিক আছে? নর্মালি কি হয়, ডিউ টু ইটস ব্রাউন অ্যাপিয়ারেন্স অ্যান্ড দ্য লো কোয়ালিটি, many of the times it cannot provide you a very good print quality. So it's a general practice that on this board we have a paper layer, okay, which is a sulfate paper which can give you that printability. মানে আসলে বোর্ডটা হলো এইটা, এই যে এই জিনিসটা যেটা আমি একটুখানি ছিঁড়ে নিলাম, এর ওপরে একটা সাদা পেপারের লেয়ার থাকে ফর প্রিন্টিং, ঠিক আছে? সো দিস ইজ অ্যান এক্সাম্পল অফ সলিড আনব্লিচড বোর্ড. So if you have unbleached stock, obviously you will have a solid bleached board also, and that is the same way, but instead of unbleached stock we use the bleached stock. Okay, and bleached stock is generally it's a chemically bleached stock. Again, I'm saying this chemical bleaching, unbleaching, calendaring, then many of the other terms you are going to hear now. You just hear it now. You are going to learn it much detail in your paper technology class. But just for the time being, so this is a solid bleached board. Okay, solid bleached board. It is having the top layer. Generally, this top layer is made for printing. Okay, so that is why you may have many kind of treatment over there, but your actual board is basically this one, where you have multiple layers of bleached chemical pulp. Okay, so this is the one of the good example is, if you see the medicine boxes, okay, when you buy some syrup or something, that box that you get, you will see it is quite white in color in general. Okay, the board, the other side of the board, the best thing to identify board is the other side of the board. That means which side is not printed. Okay, I'm just showing you one example. This is one piece of the thing that I have taken from one of those boxes of medicinal syrup. And you see, if I keep side by side, this is the unbleached stock where you have this brown kind of appearance, and this is the bleached stock. You can see this is much more smooth, and quality wise also it is much better, and it is very difficult to get the this paper layer over here, like it is, because since it is of bleach stock, it is already having good printability and a good whiteness also, like which can be directly printed. You don't need to put another layer of paper on this board to print. Am I clear? Have you got what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so coming to the next type of board. Okay, the next type of board is called FBB, that is folding box board. Folding box board, as you know, that it is used for most of the cases that you see. Okay, say for example, so the structure is a bit different. It is having, it is not a single type of paper stock. Like in case of bleached and all, what you have seen, that you have a single type of paper stock. Either it's a bleach, either you have a bleached stock or you have a unbleached stock. But in case of FBB, it is not a single type of stock. You have multiple type of stocks clubbed together to get this particular structure. Let us see how it looks like. What are the different layers of FBB? FBB stands for folding box board. Okay. Okay. It is having a structure like this. This is the top layer, and top layer is generally having different treatments. Okay, I will tell that afterward, but just remember the top layer, the layer which get printed, that needs some further treatments to make it printable. Okay, so that is why in many of the structures you will get this simply labeled as a coated layer. Now this coating can be of different types depending on application, but normally we are having a kind of lamination or UV treatment over there. But we will see in much detail what are the different kind of treatments we do on the paper. And then we have a layer of bleached chemical pulp. Okay, so if you see the structure of FVB, it is having, as you can see, that it is having multiple layers. The top layer is basically a coated layer to make it much more printable. But otherwise also this kind of boards are quite printable, okay? Because as you can see that the last layer, the bottommost layer is having a bleached chemical pulp. If something is made of bleached chemical pulp, it is generally good printed. It can be printed very well because bleached chemical pulps are clean and it generally gives a very good whiteness, okay? But otherwise also you can see the next layer is bleached chemical pulp, but in between what we use the bleached mechanical pulp. These mechanical pulps are a bit less expensive, so you could have given means all the bleached chemical pulps, but it will increase the cost of the board. Okay, but anyway, folding box board is also quite expensive, but not as expensive as solid bleached board. Okay, it is solid bleach board are more expensive because if you want to have 5 layers of bleached pulp, then obviously it is going to increase the cost. But in case of FBB, the use of mechanical pulp actually reduces the cost of it. Okay, and you can see the use of bleached board, this FBB, very commonly most of the boxes, say for example, yeah, this one, if you can see, this is a pulse oximeter thing. So this is an example of the FBB, folding box board, and it is having a very good formation factor. Okay, you can give different type of shapes, you can have different kind of packaging over there. So if you see that, like it is having a packaging forms like this, you have this kind of slips are there, and so good fold, you can make good folds of it, and you can see that it is very white, means after being used for about 2 years it is still quite white and it has been just kept in normal condition. So this is the example of FBB, okay, folding box board. Okay, the next one is called WLCB. As you can see, the WLC, it is having multiple layers, but what is most important to see over here that it introduced a kind of recycled pulp, and introducing this recycled pulp in these layers, I have drawn two, but it can be more layers. Okay, and I will send you the material. Okay, so you don't need to draw and all these things right now. Just try to understand, and if you have any doubt, please do let me know. So it is a mixed recycled pulp, and this mixed recycled pulp, what it basically does, it increases the strength because you have multiple layers. At the same point of time, it reduces the cost, and that is why WLC is also a very commonly used board. But in WLC, unlike the previous one, folding box board, you don't have both sides a white kind of appearance. In some of the medicinal packs, you will see that one side is white, but another side is not that kind of white appearance. Okay, so in those cases, it is the use of WLC. So more or less, these are the boards. If you have any doubt, please do let me know. Just one sec. Okay, so now before we end today, we will have just one more thing to do. As I already told you, that there are different kind of treatments that the paper should be subjected to for the different reasons. One reason is for printing, one reason may be increasing the water resistance of the paper. So we will just quickly review the few of the very commonly used treatments for paper. The most commonly used treatments are called sizing, okay, acrylic resin dispersion coating, fluorocarbon dispersion coating, lamination, extrusion lamination. These are the majorly used coating thing that is done on the paper. These are called paper treatments. Okay, what are the treatments? Because most of the times the paper as it is, we cannot use for packaging, okay, because of many limitations of the paper. So that is why there are few very commonly used kind of treatments on the paper. I'm just going to list them down, and I'm going to show you one of them in detail so that you can understand how it is done. So some of the commonly used treatments. Number one is sizing. Next we have different kind of dispersion. Dispersion is normally you can have acrylic dispersion, you can have some fluorocarbon kind of thing, and we can have something called lamination. We may use some kind of UV coating or UV treatments are there. Then we can have something called extrusion lamination. Now let us quickly see how it is done. Just one sec, let me take one image actually. So I'm going to show you how the extrusion lamination is done. Okay. Can you see this image? Can you see this image?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
This image basically illustrates how the extrusion lamination is done. You can see that this arrangement is basically called extruder. We will learn more about extruder when we will talk about plastic and forming the plastic packaging. For the time being, you can understand that extruder is nothing but a device or an arrangement that converts the globules of plastic into molten plastic, which can be used for, you know, uh, forming plastic packaging. So this arrangement, this entire arrangement is called an extruder. And this extruder, as I already told, it basically gives out the molten plastic. Okay. And this plastic then goes to a extrusion die, and this die, as the name says, that this is basically give the shape to the molten plastic. Because here what you need a film of the plastic. So this die basically converts this molten plastic, you can see, to the LDPE film. LDPE means low density polyethylene. This LDPE film is going to this particular arrangement. You see here is the substrate 1. Substrate 1 is this one, which is nothing but paper in our case. The paper is going there, the molten plastic is coming over here, and substrate 2 may be another layer of paper or maybe another kind of coating that you want to do. So it basically comes in between these two, and this pressure roll comes over there, and this is called a chill roll. Why this chill roll? Because if it is cooled down, if it is chilled, it is going to solidify, and once it is solidified, then you cannot use it for forming anything. So that is why the moment it comes in between these two substrates, it is being chilled so that it solidifies over there. Okay, and then it comes out of this, and you get this extrusion laminated paper stock. Can you tell me why is it done? Why is it done? It is done for one reason, where you have to have some kind of heat sealability. Heat sealability means, say for example, the envelope and all these things that I have shown you, those are sealed by using glue. But think of tea bag. You will see, if you very closely, if you see it, you will see that these two ends of the paper, they are not actually sealed by using any glue, but they have been sealed using heat. And to enable the paper to use such sealing applications, we must have a layer of plastic in between, because paper you cannot melt and you cannot seal. So you need to have plastic there. To introduce that plastic layer, this type of arrangement is used. So this is an example how the extrusion lamination treatment is done on the paper. In some cases, you can have this only in one side. I'm just showing you one example of such paper. If you buy, say for okay, this paper, if you see now, this side I'm not sure how much from the camera you can understand. This side is having a very rough kind of appearance. Okay, this is the board, but this side you can see that on this paper, if I just tear off, I can easily see a layer of plastic on this. You see, yeah, this is a layer of plastic actually, which I have teared off. Okay, so this layer of plastic, how it has been put on the paper? It has been put on the paper using this lamination technique. You had this paper stock, on that you have this plastic stock being put in terms of a film. And why it is used? It is used for many reasons. One of the major reason is to protect the both as well as your printed information from water and moisture. Okay, that's all for the day. If you have any doubts, you can ask me. I will send you the recording of this class as well as the previous class by this weekend, and the material also I will send in the group, in the WhatsApp group. If you have any doubts, you can ask me.
Sir,
Yeah, tell.
sir, in the figure which you have shown, this will have coated means lamination coating in one side.
That that entirely depends on your requirement, because the thing that I have shown, it is having an in between layer. If you can remember the image, like I have the thing that I have shown, it is basically having, one sec, just let it get shared once again. Yeah, if you can see this now, what is happening, this is substrate 1, this is substrate 2. Substrate 1, substrate 2 are basically two layers of paper, and in between these two I have a layer of plastic. Now you may not need a substrate 2, you just need one paper, and above that there will be a layer of plastic. Or you may have one layer of plastic, then paper, then again the layer of plastic. So it all depends on what is the kind of application you are actually looking for, and depending on that you can use that particular treatment to the paper.